10th edition of the Cisco Morning Poll. Head coach Rick West of Cisco Lobos. I'm Lee Lewis. We're live here at First Financial Bank on Conrad Hilton in beautiful Cisco, Texas. Thanks for listening in again this morning. If you're close by, please drop in, have some refreshments, say hello. Be sure to thank the folks here at First Financial Bank for sponsoring the weekly edition of the Cisco Morning Huddle. This past Friday night, Cisco Lobos traveled to Wolf Stadium to take on Colorado City and were able to clinch their third consecutive district championship, winning that game 53-6. Coach West, welcome to the show again. Congratulations to you guys on another big win. Tell us, we always start off, how does that feel coming out of the game? And so we'll start there again. How did everybody feel about the game with Colorado City?
Well, we felt good. That's a long little road trip, and just having to ride a yellow dog up there in itself is pretty tiring, and it's a little mental. But we felt like our kids got off the bus, they were ready to play, and making that transition from playing a tough Hamilton squad that lines up in some slot T and just runs right over you to the spread, was a concern of mine we talked about last week, and we felt like we adapted very well. Colorado City didn't have a great record coming in, but what they could do is throw the football. Coach Gainey's son was the quarterback. The first week against Ballinger, he completed quite a few passes for well over 400 yards. So we knew, that was something that they were good at. They have had some struggles running the football. They've had some injuries, but we were pretty pleased with our secondary. Holding on to 38 yards. I think they completed 6 passes. Well, I was pretty pleased in that area, and it was good for us in the future because we know we're going to probably play a spread team, possibly in the bi-district game. So very pleased in that area. Offensively, I thought our O-line graded out a lot better. We had some big holes. And it was an area that Colorado City was struggling in all year with stopping the run, and we felt like we did a pretty good job there.
A lot of the times it looked like you guys had a short field, and then when you didn't have a short field, you were able to shorten it pretty quick. What do you do sometimes, I guess, from the offensive side of the ball when, kids, I don't know, maybe you're thinking they're going to get a few more touches or whatever they need to do, but they can't because you're trying to keep the score down and not run it up. Do you just go really basic then, or do you try to do some things that maybe you wouldn't otherwise?
Well, it can be a challenge. It's a problem, but it's a good problem. Our running backs right now, we've got 2 good running backs, and they have fewer carries than most running backs in the big country. And it's a good thing that we've got those type of kids that doesn't affect. Mason Reed could care less that he only had 6 carries the other night. Landon Lewis is exactly the same way. And if we had a problem with those type of kids wanting carries and wanting to pat themselves on the back and wanting the stats in the paper, then we would definitely have an issue. I'm pretty lucky as the head coach of the Cisco Lobos that we don't have that problem. Or we would be in the dilemma. I'd have to find a way, to get extra carries in the fourth, and could easily run the score up. Because, in the fourth quarter, you toss Mason Reed a sweep the other night, he's going to score the first time you toss it to him. And it's a problem, but it's definitely a good problem to have.
I think the good part of it, too, was that, defense did a great job putting you in some spots when you didn't have to go more than 20, 30, 40 yards. And you guys took advantage of that pretty quickly. Coming out of the game, health-wise, didn't appear that anything was too bad, but do the Lobos tonight, is everyone healthy, I guess, is what we should ask going into tonight's game.
Well, going into week 10, we can't complain. We've got every kid going to suit up and play tonight. Coach Scott is nursing a groin, and that's something he's probably going to nurse for a few more weeks. McBride has still got the turned ankle that he hurt, I believe, against Coleman in the first half. And he tweaked it again this week. But again, these are injuries that you're just going to have to live with and be tough. And those kids, I don't feel like they'll have a problem tonight nursing through that. They'll tough it out and find a way. But man, we're healthy right now, and that's a huge difference. We're the most healthy team in our district, and that makes such a difference in what we do on both sides of the ball. Our kids are they're experienced, and we're not having to play some young ones in some positions that were injured like a lot of folks are doing in our district.
I was gonna say, in comparison to people that were having to play in district, just about everybody had like critical injuries, season-ending type injuries, and knock on wood, we've been able to avoid that. Last night, the junior high and the JV group went down to Bellinger, and it was a good night for the Lobos again. Talk a little bit about what happened at the sub-varsity levels last night.
It was a very good night. We swept them. The seventh grade was ahead 34-0 at half. Man, those guys did nothing but get better every single week. We're proud of that group. They ended up winning 40-6. The eighth grade had another big win, and they finally got healthy. We were healthy last night. We won 32-6 and showed some explosion on both sides of the ball. We were physical. They had also improved vastly. And the JV won 41-14. I thought what was neat about the JV is the bulk of that team is freshmen, and that probably the youngest JV that we put together in a very long time, and yet they stayed undefeated on the year and won another district championship. And they had to grow up quickly. It felt like in some key positions such as quarterback and running back, we typically have some sophomores and sometimes even juniors in those positions. And this year that JV had some freshmen in there that had to step up. So proud of how they finished the year 10-0. And obviously, they've gotten a lot better. I want to pat Coach Adams and Coach Pope on the back for another great year of coaching. Coach Jay Spear that we hired this year, he moved in from Comanche. He's won a district championship in that seventh grade, and we're going to name him Coach of the Year. We're pretty proud of him. And obviously, Coach Stinnett every year does a great job at that eighth grade.
Just super job all the way around. Everybody gets to chip in there, but those guys certainly did a great job with those kids this year. And just to highlight this before we go to break, thoughts on things that you saw in the different groups from the beginning of the year to the end that impressed you, and maybe some things that you would like to see happen for them maybe to work on as far as developing and moving forward in the program.
We'll start with that seventh grade. You know, we've talked about how slow that class is. I'm going to throw out a negative out there. That is a slow football team. So stopping speed is being able to tackle somebody faster than you is extremely hard to do. And they weren't able to do that those first 2 weeks. They got better and better. I think we played faster as the year went on, and we'll have track season around the corner, and we're going to get faster. So that was something that I was impressed with, is they were not a fast football team, but because they were physical and they learned how to tackle and they improved every week, they were able to win a district title. So we will get faster with that group, and they really will be explosive down the road if their work ethics continue. The eighth grade, you got 15 to 16 kids out there playing every week. Just trying to practice is difficult. You know, we've got coaches playing corners and safeties and middle linebacker and scout team. The manager's coming out and playing your sounds for you. It's extremely difficult to go out and have a good plan when you don't have the 15 or 16 kids, or to practice that plan and to show a spread offense, you know, in a scout team environment. And they were fine with that. Those kids didn't hardly come on the field on Thursday night, and they got in better shape and just found a way to get it. Didn't bug them a bit. So we were pleased with that. Not much you can do about the numbers problem in that class, but just continue to work hard and get better. We're going to mix in real well with the freshmen ahead of them in the seventh grade. In the JV, just again, we talked a little bit about them already, how they grew up. Had some good sophomore leadership in that class, but just not many sophomores in there to lead that class. I had 4 up on the varsity the last 2 weeks, and those freshmen did a good job growing up. So very pleased. We feel like the future could be very bright for us.
And just to say this right before we go to break, your eighth grade only missed out on our district championship by a couple of points. And lost there to Coleman. So we're knocking on the door there again, and if it weren't for an injury, probably would have had it again this year. All right, it's time for us to take our first break. We're live again at First Financial Bank. You're listening to the Cisco Huddle on KATX 97.7. Back in 2 minutes. Greatness it could be there. So, Coach Russ, let's just start. Talk a little bit about how you arrived at Cisco, Texas, and where you've been all the way. graduated high school from Silverton,
Silverton, Texas.
and then went on and played at Eastern New Mexico.
Yes, sir. Was out at Eastern for, played out there for 5 years, GA'd a couple of years, and had my first job in Lubbock. From there, I went to Haskell, was there for 10 years, and then this is my 6th year here at Cisco.
And we are certainly better off for having you. We appreciate what you do with kids. Your family very involved in just about every possible way with what goes on in the schools and all the little activities that go on with all the small kids sports. And now you got one come through junior high and in high school now.
Sure do. Have a 9th grader that just finished up his little season last night.
How's it feel to be a dad, but be a coach too, and witness what all's taking place?
Oh, it's not real enjoyable, but
a little challenging at
it's a
times.
little challenging at times, but I'm glad I have the opportunity to see it, have the opportunity to, be involved with him, coach him on some level, and, he's getting better, so that's all we can ask. Continue to make progress.
Right. Now, I have to ask, does mom ever get on to you a little bit because you're a little too hard on her?
She's harder on him than I am.
Well.
She's, I have to kind of pull the reins back on her every once in a while.
All right. Well, that's
I'm
good to
not
know.
hard on him at all.
Let's talk nuts and bolts a little bit here. You came here, 2008 was the first year, is that right?
2008, yes, sir.
And you guys went to state that year in your first year, had a great season, and then ended up being just a phenomenal team in Dangerfield that first year. You have, I think, if I've got this figured out right, this group of seniors is the first group that's gone all the way through under you, right, as far as defense goes?
Yes.
What have you seen change from that first year of 2008 to this year, to this point in this year, as far as the defense is concerned?
Well,
Not a lot.
not really a whole lot. Of course, the kids, you would think, would understand the team a whole lot better. And every year, I always kind of just try to measure the defense as far as, do they understand the scheme? Do they know what to do? 90% of it is knowing what to do in my mind. Yeah, it's great if they're bigger and faster and stronger than the other team, but if they don't know what to do, then they're not really doing us any good. And I really feel good about this group. We've got this is a pretty experienced group of kids we have playing defense, and they, for the most part, played the same position for multiple years, and a couple of them, even on varsity, played that position. So experience helps more than anything else, and they're a smart group, and they really kind of understand the scheme and know what to do. So that's really, really important.
It's hard sometimes. A lot of people want to try to compare teams. Compare this team in 2008 to this team in 2013 or 2011 or whatever year it was. That's hard to do because the makeup of the kids is a little bit different. But if you were to characterize this 2013 team, what would you say their strength is as far as the defensive side of the ball is concerned?
Well, we're stronger in some areas and we're weaker in some areas than we were then. I really feel like that 2008 team, they were an incredible group of athletes, but that kind of being the first year we ran that scheme, of course, by the time we got to the state championship, I can't say that they didn't know what to do. They were really football smart, and that makes a big difference. Sometimes, a kid may not can add 2 + 2, but he can understand football. I don't know why that's the case. And that was a really smart group of kids as well, and they understand the scheme. But you look back on that, and we do compare a lot of times the strengths and weaknesses of the defense year to year. I really feel like this year, that 2008 year, we had 2 really good corners, and we were a little weaker at the safety position. We had some really good linebackers, and we were maybe a little weaker at the defensive tackle position, but we had really good ends. And it's that way every year too. You're never going to be able to say, okay, we've got 20 seniors, and they've all had experience at every position. So every year you're going to have that problem where you've got some guys experienced, you're gonna be really good at that spot. And you've got some guys less experienced, you're gonna be weaker at that spot. So you just really hope the pluses outweigh the minuses. You start comparing. But this defense this year is, so far, I've been really pretty pleased with our efforts for the most part. Charlie Weiss once said that coaches by nature are miserable people because, their ultimate goal is perfection. And, before you ever start, you're not going to attain that. So before you ever begin, you're going to fail. So that makes for a pretty miserable,
it's a hard thing to get up every day.
Yeah. But, we've made some mistakes, but I feel like for the most part we've progressed really well. I think defensively we have more speed than we've had. Overall, we've got more speed than we've had in the past. Kids understand what they're supposed to do, and that's allowing us to play really fast. So far, I'm pleased. I hope we can continue with that.
The effort that you guys see from week to week, ever really been an issue?
It's never been an issue. That's, I've coached teams before that has been an issue, and that's something you can't fix. You can't coach. You can't coach effort, and that's just, since I've been here at Cisco, that's, if I had to say what's the number one thing that makes this program great, I would say that is it. You never have to coach effort. You're always going to get 100% out of the kids, and they're always going to go 100 miles an hour and try to do what you ask them to do. People who don't coach can't understand how important that is, and that's got nothing to do with talent or ability.
Can't coach effort. It's just something that they do or they don't do.
That's right.
Last question here before we go to our final break. What do you take away? Let's say it all ended this year, and I'm not suggesting anything bad for anyone, but what would you take away from the experience that you've got so far at Cisco, Texas?
Well, I would say when Coach West fires me this year, that I'm probably going to look back on my time here and just, coaching is a lot like a lot of any other jobs. It's an emotional roller coaster. So sometimes you dwell on the negative things, and when the roller coaster's at the very bottom, but at the end of the season, you want to be able, and career or at the end of your time at any place, you want to be able to look back, and for the most part, you remember the good things. And really none of it has to do with X's and O's, none of it has to do with games, it just has to do with the time you spend, and we spend a lot of hours with each other. The coaches and the kids, and the relationships you build. That's, I think, here, whenever my time comes to retire, which seems like an eternity from now, but someday it's going to come, I hope. I'm going to look back and remember the relationships I built with the kids and the people that I've worked with. Even though we do, this is week 10, so we've been rocking and rolling here for 14 weeks, and now we get sick of each other. And the coaches get sick of each other, the kids get sick of each other, but you don't dwell on that. We have a lot of good times and a lot of laughs. And love these kids, love the guys I work with, and that's what I'll always remember.
Well, you guys have collected a whole lot of gold balls in the last many years, but I think the thing that you're saying, and just to highlight this, is all those people that wear the uniforms and stand on the sideline with them every week.
Oh yeah, I'd love to try. The 6 years I've been here, I would love to talk about, comparing teams. I would love to assemble a little all-star team from the last 6 years that I've been here. We could have a pretty good.
Be pretty tough.
It's pretty tough.
All right, that's Coach Brad Brunson. I think it's coordinator for your Cisco Lobos, and we appreciate his time here with us today. And I'm glad that Mr. Kent let you get away for a little while. We're going to take a 1-minute break, and we'll be back for the last section of the Cisco Morning. I don't know if you're on KTX 97.7. On KTX 97, be sure to stay tuned. Terry Slavens, Coach Brian Hewlett will be over in Eastland for the Eastland Morning Huddle here in a little bit. But we're going to wrap this thing up. Coach West, you have to verify this for me, but going into tonight, is every slot in our district, as far as the playoffs are concerned, are they already filled?
It is set, and that is extremely rare.
I was going to ask, have you ever seen that happen?
I really don't think looking back, I don't think I remember a time when the last game really didn't mean a whole lot.
Right.
This district is set with 4 teams making the playoffs. We may be the only district in the state.
I don't know, gosh, I don't know, a long time following football and being involved with that. I don't know that I've ever been far, and then you throw that 4th team in, like you mentioned it this year, where every spot in a district was filled before that last week. That said, I think the hard part for me, and I know you guys wouldn't let our kids ever do this, but I think this would be either the 11th or 12th team in the history of football dating back to 1913 to go through a regular season unbeaten and untied. Does that mean anything to them? Are they even aware of that?
I doubt they're even aware of it. I wasn't until you told me that this morning. I was not aware of it. And I think, I'm definitely going to let our kids know that our motivation is obviously at times important to a kid. This game to an average kid doesn't mean a whole lot. We're going to be district champions, whether we win it or lose it. We're going to play the same guy next week in the playoffs. But you certainly hope that your kids are going to show up tonight and play hard, and our kids always do. But that'll be just a little extra motivation to put your name out there that we were one of them. That's one of the 11 or 12 years that we were undefeated in 100 years. It's pretty impressive and pretty special for this particular group. But I really, at the same time, I don't think that's going to mean a whole lot to this group. They want to go perform for their community on Friday night and do their job like a well-oiled machine, and that's the way we like it.
I guess the other talk around town a little bit this week has been that matchup that's going on between Reagan County and Stanton, because that's who you guys will be playing. Whoever wins that game, I guess who the Lobos will be playing. You got somebody there watching them, or what's happening as far as tonight?
We don't have anyone there watching that game. We will trade for that game. The winner will play Cisco in Sweetwater at 7:30. We do have that set on Friday night, and we feel like Stanton's probably the better football team, but they're playing that in Reagan County. And it's for a playoff spot, so who knows? That's probably going to be a real good game tonight. Reagan County runs the wing tee. They're very good at smash mouth football. Stanton will spread it out very similar to Colorado City, and chunk it around a little, run some spread runs. So real curious who's going to win that, and we're excited for the opportunity to get to play one of those teams.
All right, we're just about running out of time here. I want to thank Coach West once again for being here. It's been a great season already. No matter what happens tonight, no matter what happens going forward, but we certainly hope that the Lobos are playing after tonight for 6 more weeks.
Yes, sir.
And again, please stay tuned. Tonight, 7 o'clock pregame, 7:30 kickoff on KWBY, KWBYradio.com. And right after we sign off here, Terry Slavens and Coach Brock Hewitt, the Eastland Morning Huddle over at First Financial Bank in Eastland. I want to thank Craig Cochran for helping us out this morning, as well as Matthew. And we'll see you guys tonight for everyone that's been a part of this. Thank you